Hello and welcome back for another episode of Sideline Stories here on the WMBD Plus app. I am WMBD Weekend Sports Anchor Patrick Cunningham. It is my week to fill this, and man, we have got a busy time here. Missouri Valley Conference basketball is in full swing. We're almost about halfway through the conference schedule here. This is being recorded on Tuesday afternoon, January 13th. So for those that follow the Bradley Braves and Illinois State, Bradley has a game here in just a few hours on the road at Evansville. Illinois State has a game tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, that will be at Indiana State, and then, man, War on I-74, first edition of this season. Maybe the most highly anticipated meetings, these two this year. I would say more than last year, because I feel like last year it was coming in like, okay, let's see what Illinois State's got. Can they finally knock off the Bradley Braves here in the Ryan Peden era? And the two split the series, both winning at home. This year, it's like, okay, now Illinois State coming in with very high expectations on this season. Bradley coming in, brand new team, and they've had some rough moments, but they are going strong right now. They've got a couple of really nice wins. Again, both still have games before this weekend, but this is recorded once a week, so this is my chance to talk about it, the rivalry beforehand. Coming up in this episode, we will take a look at what Brian Wardle has to say about the state of the Bradley Braves here in segment one. Our second segment, we will have Ryan Peden talking about where Illinois State currently stands, and then we'll take a look in segment three at some JUCO hoops with the ICC women, who are currently ranked top 2 in the country, sitting at number 2 right now at a record of 14-3. So from high school to college, it's a very exciting time here in Central Illinois for college hoops. But let me just briefly talk about here where Bradley and Illinois State stand. And we'll start with the Bradley Braves here to start. When the schedule came out for conference schedule, what the Bradley Braves are currently in right now are what I consider the hardest part of their schedule. I always look for about a set of 4 to 6 games where I'm like, man, if they can come out 500 or maybe a game or two over 500 in this set, your season and how you feel about how the year's going is really going to flip on those 6 games. And Bradley is almost at the end of what I circled when the schedule came out. So in the last couple of weeks, this is all since the start of the new year. This first game was on January 1st, and then the last game will be Illinois State coming up this Saturday. They were at Belmont, at Murray State, home against Drake, at home against Northern Iowa. Tonight they're on the road at Evansville, and then Saturday they'll be on the road at Illinois State for the War on 74. And right now they're 2-2. They dropped at Belmont by 10, and then they got handled by Murray State by 20, and probably brought them back down to earth a little bit, much like Illinois State right now. Bradley had won 6 in a row. They actually went the entire month of December without a loss. That loss at Belmont on New Year's Day was their first loss since right before Thanksgiving on November 25th, when they lost to UC San Diego 87-77. And if you had talked to Brian Wardle before the start of the season, and I did a couple of times, if you had told him that roughly halfway through your season and almost halfway through Valley play, you're going to be in mid-January 12-6, 5-2 in the Valley, currently tied for second in the Valley with Belmont, and you're 9-1 at home, he probably would have taken that in a heartbeat, because Bradley came in with so many question marks this season. What would they look like? Last season, they were the talk for being the oldest team in the Valley. You had Duke Dean. You had Darius Hannah. Those kind of guys, solid years under their belt. Darius Hannah played more games in a Bradley uniform than anybody in the history of the program. And now you've got a bunch of young guys. Jaquan Johnson, he's really taken over the team. He's just a sophomore. You got a lot of freshmen. Montana Wheeler has really been a great surprise for the Bradley Braves this year. Matthew Zobrist and Dietrich Richardson, Peoria area talent that are just true freshmen. They're getting some minutes throughout the year as well. But again, a lot of question marks, and they've had some rough patches. And we'll talk about Illinois State's current rough patch here coming up in the next segment. But I mean, Bradley, at the start of the year, was 1-3. They lost to St. Bonaventure. They beat Central Michigan, and then they dropped back-to-back games to UT Martin and San Francisco. And that was a moment very early on in the season where I was very curious how they would respond heading into UMass Lowell, which they were able to pull out, and then the game against Princeton, which they won handily. And in Brian Wardle fashion, they have responded well. And I commend them for that, because if you had told me through 7 games they'd be 5-2, I don't know if I would have believed you, especially with the first few games in their schedule being against kind of the lower tier of teams. Right now, the MVC is very clearly in 2 tiers. You've got Murray State leading all the way at 7-0. You've got a 2-way tie for second between Belmont and Bradley at 5-2. And then you've got Illinois State and Northern Iowa tied for 4th at 4-2. And then you've got a 4-way tie between Drake, SIU, Valpo, and UIC at 2-4. Indiana State's 1-5. Evansville is 1-6. So there's 2 very clear tiers here in the MVC right now. And going back to my previous point before we hear from Brian Wardle, you are almost through what I consider the toughest part of your schedule. And all Valley games are tough. Let me be very clear. It's the Valley. And it is the Valley for a reason. You will drop some games that you weren't supposed to. You will also win some games that you weren't supposed to. It's a very fun league. It's a very competitive league where anyone can win on any given night. However, there are stretches of your schedule that are harder than others. And I believe Bradley is in the middle of that. Illinois State is about to enter theirs. But going back to Bradley, huge win this past Saturday night against Northern Iowa. A dogfight of a game. And in those kind of games where, actually in Vegas, Bradley was the favorite. And I was a little surprised when that line came out that Bradley was actually the favorite. But I mean, that Carver Arena crowd, Brian Wardle talked about it, and he will talk about it here in this clip I'm about to play. That Bradley crowd, man, it is something. It is fun to be at. The Bradley Carver Arena always showing out for the Bradley Braves, and they were a difference maker, especially in that second half down the last few minutes of the game. Bradley defense got some big stops, hit some big shots from Jaquan Johnson and Corey Thomas, and that crowd carried them, and you could tell. And Northern Iowa, their head coach, he's been in the Valley a long time, and I'm sure he was telling his players, Carver Arena, guys, it's different. It is a very hard place to win. Just a couple of years ago, Bradley had the 2nd or 3rd longest active home winning streak in the country. It's a tough place to play for a reason. But for Bradley to come out a winner there in a dogfight of a game where they also just demolished Drake, I mean, that is massive for them when you take a look at the rest of their schedule. They're on the road at lowly Evansville, a game they should handle, but I'm sure Brian Wardle is nervous about it. If there's a game on your schedule you're nervous about, it's this one. You've got sandwiched in between Northern Iowa, who's always going to give you a great game. Between that and Illinois State on Saturday, I'd be a little nervous about this game if I was Brian Wardle. Not because I think they're going to lose. I believe Bradley will win this game. But I'm worried about looking back, and I'm worried about looking forward. But I believe if they can get through this game this Saturday and come out of that stretch, like I said, at Belmont, at Murray State, home against Drake and Northern Iowa, and then on the road at Evansville and Illinois State. If you can come out of that 4-2, if you're the Bradley Braves, that is a huge boost for you for the rest of their season, because you do get into a somewhat lighter part of your schedule once you get past the Illinois State game. You're at home against Indiana State and UIC. You go to Drake, and then you're back home against Valpo. I mean, those are all winnable games for sure. And then you've got Northern Iowa on the road, and then you're at home against Belmont. A very tough 2-game stretch back to back. But I mean, we're looking at potentially the Bradley Braves being maybe 8-3. 9-2 in the Valley. Bradley fans certainly would have taken that when the season started. I certainly would have. But, I mean, Jaquan Johnson took over the game late in it. Brian Wardle's going to talk about 6 minutes left in the game. He told Jaquan Johnson to go make plays. And Jaquan Johnson, after the game, said, this is my team. And Brian Wardle agrees with it. It is Kwani's team. I mean, and he's had a great year. He's averaging 17 points a game. 4 rebounds to go along with several assists. I can't quite find it here on the stat line how many assists he's averaging, but he's got 61 assists on the year, by far most on the team. The only one who's even close is Montana Wheeler with 57. Only one other player has more than 30. So those two guys are dishing out dimes all day long. But look at this. He's also got 57 steals on the year. Only one player has more than 15, and he's got 57. This is Jaquan Johnson's team. And what I'm hoping to see out of him just in a few hours, if you're watching this later, is to go on the road to Evansville, leave absolutely no doubt, and come in with all the confidence before you head to Illinois State on Saturday. So Brian Wall is going to talk about that Northern Iowa game, how it was a dogfight, the crowd. He's also going to talk about Jaquan Johnson here, and just kind of talk about the state of the team here as we near the halfway point of conference play. And without further ado, here is Brian Wardle.
No, not in shock at all. I mean, we fully, both their program expected to win, we expect to win. I mean, that's what you prepare for. But just a good old Missouri Valley basketball game. Two good programs. Got a lot of respect for their program and Jake. And, it was a slugfest. It was back and forth. I thought we controlled the first half pretty well. Made just too many mistakes out of timeouts, defensive mistakes to start the game. Liked our lead going in, but started the second half with some, I thought, poor shot selection. And so had to burn a timeout pretty early to just get everyone back to reversing the ball and sharing the ball. And once that started happening, it was back and forth the whole second half. Our fans were great the last 4 minutes. That's home court advantage right there. The crowd, especially when we're on defense, where they can't hear offensively. And that's what it comes down to, these close games in Valley, making plays down the stretch. And we could play better. We made mistakes, and we got to tweak some stuff too as a program and staff just to make adjustments. But it was a game of adjustments. They changed their defenses probably 3-4 times on different ball, from drop to switch to aggressive to, you name it. They were changing and making adjustments. But that's an older team with a high IQ, and I can't do that with my guys. But I give them credit. I thought we made some quick adjustments too to try to counter what they were doing. And like I said, meta big free throws. We just you got to make big plays in big moments, and we were able to do that at home today. There's a lot to learn from this game too. So we got to move on quickly, then get ready for Evansville because we got a quick turnaround. So you don't even have much time to think about this game.
We've talked a lot about the youth of this team, but I didn't see them rattle or be unsure. They look like a very confident, strong team.
No,
what did you see?
Yeah, we were confident in the timeouts. We're a resilient group. We've had some, losses this year where we've lost in the last 2 minutes of the game. Quite a, probably 3 or 4 of ours at least were like that. We know how to battle, we know how to fight, and that was what this game was. So we've been there.
Quan said, in those last few minutes, I think it was during a timeout, he said you told him, go get it done.
Yeah.
Something to that effect. You tell me what you said to him, but he said, this is my team.
Yeah.
I'm taking us there.
And it is. And Quan, he's more vocal this year than last year. He's still not where I think he can be, but I want him to be true to his personality too. But it is when he's in attack mode like that, and we were trying to get certain players switched on to him, and that's what I was like, hey, go to work. I always say go to work. Go to work means, it's time to go make some plays, especially if we get a certain player on you, and he did that. Next play, so. I won't disclose all that information, Dave.
Do you have to play them again?
Yes, we do. Yeah, and to their credit, they had they got a guy out, number 11. They got a few injuries, but that's part of it. Everybody has sickness and injuries throughout this long season, and you just got to find ways to win. And they battled, and they really wanted this one, and we did too. And so I'm just proud of our guys for finding a way to win.
And that's something about the Bradley Braves that has stayed with me through my now 4th season covering their team, is that they just seem to find ways to win those kind of games. And that Saturday game against Northern Iowa truly could have gone either way. It was a rock fight from the very beginning. I think in the first 5 minutes of the game, it was already 18-18. They were trading bucket after bucket after bucket, and then the team's defenses kind of got settled in there. Scoring kind of came to a halt during about the middle 8 of the game. But again, Bradley taking away 2 games from Drake and Northern Iowa. They should win against Evansville if they could take care of business there. And then you have got a heck of a matchup on Saturday on national television with Illinois State. Both of them will be wanting that game. Obviously, it's a rivalry game. You always want that game, and you want every game possible in the Valley. But, man, it'll be a heck of an atmosphere. I'll touch more on that here. In the second segment, we've touched on Bradley there, like 5-2, 12-6. I'd feel very comfortable right now as a Bradley Braves fan where they are almost halfway through conference play. We'll take a quick break, and we'll touch on where the Redbirds stand coming up next on Sideline Stories. Stay with us. Welcome back to this edition of Sideline Stories here on the WMBD Plus app. I am Patrick Cunningham, weekend sports anchor of WMBD TV here in Peoria. In the first segment, we talked about the Bradley Braves and where things stand as they head to Evansville. This is being recorded on Tuesday, January 13th, so this is just a few hours before they play Evansville. One day after this is recorded, Illinois State will play Indiana State, and we talked about where Bradley stands. They should feel pretty comfortable after dominating win over Drake and a very hard-fought victory over Northern Iowa. If you want to know how quickly things can change in the Valley, just ask an Illinois State fan right now. And this is not a knock on Illinois State. It's a long season just in conference play in the Valley, let alone non-conference play. But I'm sure it is also compounded by the national championship football loss. It's been a rough 5 days if you're an Illinois State Redbird fan. You had the national championship loss last week. A couple days later, your men's basketball team loses at Valpo, which is a team that historically has tripped up the Bradley Braves over the last couple of coaches they've had. And then if you're into gambling, you know how that works. They were minus 900 at home in this game against UIC and lost in overtime in a defensive shootout where the team just couldn't really buy a bucket. I've got the box score to that game here. I mean, Illinois State shooting just, I believe, 29% from the field for the game. 27% for the game. They were shooting, they shot just 22% during the overtime period. Johnny Kinziger, he had a chance to win it there, couldn't knock it down. Now, to pick them up, if I was Ryan Peden here, here's what I would say. Guys, we shot about as poorly as you could. We still took them to overtime. We still only lost by a couple points. If this loss were just existing by itself, I don't think it would have hurt as much. It still would have hurt. Don't get me wrong. You don't want to lose when you're such a huge favorite at home, especially in the Valley, because those losses can snowball. But compounded after losing at Valpo, if I am an Illinois State fan, I would tell you, don't hit the panic button just yet. I know it, especially with social media compounded and everything, I know we tend to hit the panic button quicker. You are going to drop some games you shouldn't in the Valley. You are going to win some games you shouldn't in the Valley. It's what happens. It is an absolute roller coaster of a season. Now, keep in mind with the loss of Missouri State, it's actually the first 5 teams that receive a bye for the tournament this year. And I know, Illinois State, you want the 1 seed or the 2 seed. You came in as league favorites. You want to rise to those expectations. And certainly they are capable of doing that. They have their chances. They have a couple of big games coming up. However, I would caution them if I were Ryan Peden as well, because the front half of their schedule for conference play is much lighter. It is about to get a lot harder. Here are their opening games. They have played 6 games in the Valley. They are 4-2. They were at Southern Illinois, at Indiana State, home against Indiana State, at Drake, home against Evansville, at Valpo, home against UIC. They dropped those last 2, UIC game in overtime. And here's where it gets harder, because all of those teams are in the kind of southern tier of the Valley right now. There are 2 very clear tiers across the Valley. You've got Murray State, Belmont, Bradley, ISU, and by ISU I mean Illinois State, Northern Iowa. Those are your top 5 teams. Your bottom 6, who are all 2-4 or worse in the Valley: Drake, Southern Illinois, Valpo, UIC, Indiana State, and Evansville. So for the Redbirds there, you do not have a game yet against the upper echelon of the Valley. And your schedule's about to get a lot harder, which is why their game this Wednesday is so crucial for them at Indiana State, because after they face the Sycamores, you obviously have the I-74 rivalry this Saturday, which will be on national television. And look, you could turn this whole thing around, the whole, mood in Normal, Illinois, about the basketball team right now if you could beat Bradley. And I'm sure they do expect to beat Bradley. Why wouldn't they? Bradley, I'm sure, also expects to beat the Redbirds. But here's your schedule coming up for the Redbirds after Wednesday. Home against Bradley, home against Northern Iowa, at Belmont, at Murray State. That is a brutal 4-game stretch. And when the schedule came out, I talked about in the previous segment, I always look for a 4 to 6 game segment, especially in conference play, when the schedule comes out, and figure out, okay, this block of games is where we find out the most about this team. Bradley is in the midst of that right now. They're about 4 games into their 6-game stretch. For Illinois State, I have it as a 4-game stretch. And it's, again, the stretch I just listed. Bradley, Northern Iowa, at Belmont, at Murray State. You're going to find out a lot about that team here pretty quickly, and it's why Wednesday's game at Indiana State is so crucial for them. And it's a place they've won before. They went in there when Indiana State was ranked a couple of years ago and knocked them off when they had 2 of their 5 starters out. And I mean, the Redbirds had 2 of their 5 starters out. So none of this is going to be intimidating to this team or to Ryan Peden. And it's, again, why I wouldn't hit the panic button just yet. You've dropped 2 games you shouldn't have, and it feels like it's snowballing. You have a chance to get it back here over the next few days. You have the game against Indiana State. You have a chance against your arch rival in Bradley on Saturday and on national television to do it. You just need your guys to settle in here. The defense is doing just fine. Despite having absolutely no help from their offense and Illinois State holding UIC to 51 points, you still took them to overtime while shooting 25% in the first half and only 30% in the second half. Shot 27% for the game. You shot 22% from 3. Despite all of that, you still made it to overtime. Now, is this going to help ease the pain of that loss? No, I don't expect it to. However, it should also show that you have plenty of time to make up for it. Not a lot. If they drop this game to Indiana State on Wednesday, you're going to have some people panicking. But I believe in Ryan Peden as a head coach. He's done a great job turning that program around. I also believe in Brian Wardle as well, for Bradley fans, if you want to accuse us of favoritism here. Not only am I not from Central Illinois, I'm not even from the Midwest. I have no dog in these fights. But what you can't have is all of your leaders just going flat out cold. Johnny Kinziger was 2 of 14 in that game, 1 of 9 from 3. Skunberg was 1 of 8 from 3, 2 of 12 from the field. And that's just something that you can't really have happen. Chase Walker, 0 for 6 from the field. Now, he was 7 of 8 from the free throw line, and it was good to see that he improved on his free throw shooting, which he did struggle with last season. But you can't have your 2 leaders of your team in that game go a combined, I'm trying to do math here, I've never been very good at it, combined 2 and 20 from the field. Now, you could see a positive and a negative with that. Chase Walker, 0 of 6. Johnny Kinziger, 2 of 14. Shooting less than 30% from the field, you still made it to overtime. Your defense is going to help you win. Their defense has been incredible this year. They're only giving up about, I think, 64, 65 points a game over the course of their season. However, they're going to need their offense to turn it up here. And Wednesday is a perfect opportunity to do that before you head into the toughest part of your schedule. Again, I'll let Ryan Peden speak on it more. Obviously, in a much more sour mood than we heard Brian Wardle in the first part after their interview following the win over against Northern Iowa. But there are positives to look throughout all of this. So again, I guess, as I've said, the theme of this segment, don't panic if you're Illinois State. And here is Ryan Peden after that loss against UIC, talking about the state of the team and where they need to go from here as they head near the halfway point of conference play.
That's what you get every night here in this league, I thought over the course of 40 minutes, I thought we allowed our offense to dictate our spirit, And normally when you do that in the game of basketball, it bites you. And, I thought we were very uncharacteristic tonight with our spirit. Bottom line, we got to be better. Just got to be better. Got to finish better. It was a hard-fought game. It was a grind. It was a rock fight in a lot of ways. But some of the shots we were able to manufacture were good enough, and we got to finish them. And we got to finish them off. And in games like this, 4 or 5 missed layups or shots around the rim or wide open threes, just 1 or 2 can make all the difference in the result. So, give them credit. Some of the feedback that, here we received in the last 2 games is, the profile of these teams, the last 2 is different in some ways, but in some ways very, very similar too. They've got bruising 4s and 5s, and I think we got to be better. I think we got to be better. They outscored us tonight in the paint pretty significantly, and that's odd. It's different for this team. Something we take pride in. Some nights you're not going to score more than your opponent in the paint, but we didn't finish well enough tonight, and they did. It's an atypical night. You have 30-plus games in a college basketball season. They're not all going to be sunshine and rainbows for him as an individual, but for us as a team. I say this all the time, but our story will be told in the way we respond to the tough moments. All teams can go through tough moments. All teams do. These last 2 games have taught us and have told us we got to grow in some certain areas, and I know we can do it. Yeah, I know we can do it. I believe in this team, even on their darkest day. I believe in this team, and this is part of the journey here. Our defense gave us a shot, even on a if you look at some of these numbers tonight, starters or guys off the bench. 27% from the field for our team for the game. You have a tough time. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but you're going to have a tough time beating anybody shooting 27%. So our defense was good enough. It held us in there in a real rock fight. And we got to be able to win games like that when the offense isn't all sunshine and rainbows. We got to have the fortitude, the leadership, the maturity, and I'll just keep it at that. But we got to have those qualities in these moments, and tonight we didn't.
Again, that's Coach Ryan Peden following their overtime loss to UIC. And the 2 big things I took away from that is we have to be able to step up when our offense isn't sunshine and rainbows, which it certainly has not been over the past 5 days. Again, they've got the opportunity on Wednesday against Indiana State to correct that before welcoming in the Bradley Braves for the war on 74. There are tough moments and rough stretches to every part of a schedule. Bradley's was very early in the first 4 games, starting 1-3, and since then have played spectacularly. Believe they're 12-6 right now. So they started 1-3. They've been 12-3 since then, 11-3 since then. This is capable to be turned around. Again, long season, but they need to turn it around as they now head after Wednesday into the toughest part of their schedule, in my opinion, in which they're going to need to go at least 2-2, if not 3-1, to really hope for a top seed in the Valley. Right now, they are currently tied for 4th in the Valley. I believe that is with Northern Iowa. Let me pull up the standings real quick. Yes, they're in a 2-way tie for 4th with Northern Iowa. Belmont and Bradley are both 5-2. They're tied for 2nd, and Murray State at 7-0 is comfortably in 1st place. Illinois State also still has a chance to make a run for that 1 seed. They still have 2 games against Murray State left on their schedule. They still have to face Belmont. Bradley has already faced both of those teams once, so they only get 1 more crack at each of them. Again, no reason to hit the panic button yet. All righty. As we head into the final segment here, coming up next, we'll take a look at the ICC women's basketball team. Cougars ranked number 2nd in the country in Division II JUCO, and they're doing it with a load of talent from Central Illinois. We'll talk about them next here on Sideline Stories. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sideline Stories. I am Patrick Cunningham, weekend sports anchor here at WMBD. Welcome to the WMBD Plus app. We've talked about Illinois State and Bradley men's basketball. Now what we're going to talk about is the ICC women's basketball team. This is a fun group of young women who are just absolutely rolling through their schedule. They started 14-1. I came to do a story with them this past week. They dropped their last couple of games to 14-3, but they're currently ranked number 2 in the country. They've been a fun group of ladies to cover so far this season. That is Lily Lukowiak right there. The two young ladies I really want to highlight are her, and she's about to score this bucket here. She is from Illini Bluffs, and then Addie Engel, young redhead young woman from Morton, there she is, number 23, have really been teaming up really nicely together. I did a story on their growing friendship. Even though Morton and Illini Bluffs are relatively geographically close to each other, those two really didn't know each other in high school because Morton and Illini Bluffs are incredibly different sized schools, and so they never really met. Lukowiak, she was on the state championship appearing team back in the 23-24 season for Illini Bluffs. Her and a group of 5 or 6 seniors really drove that team to the 1A state title game. They did fall in that game, but she said it was a heck of a trip that she'll never forget. Addie Engel at Morton, of course, Morton High School known for their basketball prowess. And so what I'll let them discuss here shortly is their growing friendship and how they have kind of rebuilt ICC, trying to its former glory. They've got 6 or 7 national championships under their belt as a program. My first couple years here, it just felt like the Cougars couldn't get over the hump. They were a little bit above 500. They were pulling from local schools and just, again, felt like they couldn't get over the hump, but they certainly have in the last couple of years, led mostly by these 2 young women. So without further ado, here is their story.
Winners in 12 of their last 14 and rising to a number 2 national ranking, the Cougars have been rolling. Their roster is comprised mostly with natives of the 309, including Illini Bluffs grad Lily Lukowiak and Morton alum Addie Engel.
We're pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of great talent here. It's really good basketball. Playing at their own high school teams and then now being their teammates has just been the greatest joy.
We have a lot of the best players from around Central Illinois, and it's just really fun to see how we can go and compete against the best of the players from other states.
I had seen Addie around on Twitter and stuff, saw she was coming here, and then that bond just started instantly.
With Lily and Addie going to much different sized high schools, their paths never really crossed until college, but they have since established a friendship that is both translated on and off the court.
We like to play this game called Among Us on our bus rides. There's an imposter and you have to lie about it, and she is the worst liar ever.
Lily is the imposter, and she just starts screaming at me it's Addie, and then they all believe her, and then they vote me out. It's not even me.
It's all in good fun. The two consistently light up the stat sheet and are hoping to push ICC to another deep run at nationals.
Maybe it's my night one night, or one night it's her night, and just being able to bounce off of each other like that. And then outside of basketball, yeah, she's a super great person. This team is just going to keep getting better and better.
Once again, thank you to Lily and Addie for taking the time to talk with me. Yes, they are a very fun group. They went to the Elite Eight last year at Nationals in JUCO, so hoping they can make another deep run this year as well. We'll be rooting for you the rest of the way. That'll wrap it up for this edition of Sideline Stories here on the WMBD Plus app. A lot to look forward to this week. Bradley plays later tonight. Again, this was recorded on Tuesday at Evansville. Illinois State on the road at Indiana State, and then they clash for the first time in the War on 74 this Saturday. 1 o'clock at CEFCU Arena. That game will be broadcast on ESPN2. Should be a fun one, and we'll have full coverage of it on our website, ciproud.com, and you can also check out the rest of our local stories there as well. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.